Hello, Jiro here for Umber Games, bringing you a review of Metro 2033 as delivered in Metro Redux for PlayStation 4. Metro Redux contains updated versions of Metro 2033, originally released in 2010, and Metro Last Light, released in 2013, both for PC and Xbox 360. I've not at this time played the originals, so you won't hear me make any comparisons here. This review focuses just on Metro 2033. Last Light will be at a later date. Metro 2033 is based on the international best-selling novel by the same name, written by Dmitry Glukovsky. The game was developed by Ukrainian studio 4A Games and was going to be published by THQ back right when they went bankrupt, and was instead picked up by Deep Silver. At heart, Metro 2033 tries to pull off a survival horror type feeling with limited ammo, gas mask filters, darker environments, and jump scares. This game is very much a linear shooter, broken up into 7 chapters, and you follow the game's narrator-protagonist Artyom through the underground train system of a post-apocalyptic Moscow, destroyed in the nuclear blasts of the Third World War. The radiation created a few varieties of mutants that stalk these dark tunnels and control the surface above. Most of the humans that survived took over the stations of the metro systems. This is where Metro 2033 really shines. These metro stations feel more lived in than most villages in your typical RPGs. I mean, as you walk around, you hear conversations between these NPCs that really present a feeling that this is their life. Unfortunately, you're just a passerby spending a couple minutes there to pick up some ammo and then move on to the next stage, which really feels like a missed opportunity. In order to protect the station residents, Artyom must head out on a journey to find a way to defeat a new type of mutant that's been surfacing, referred to as Dark Ones. They've been attempting telepathic communication with humanity, often leading to insanity and some pretty crazy accidents. There are essentially 3 types of stages in Metro 2033. The first is ones where you fight things in the dark tunnels between stations. A lot of these start and or end with a rail shooting section and have you fighting a mass of mutants in sudden onslaughts, or humans like commies or Nazis, yes, those Nazis, in what they call Spartan or an optional stealth combat. The next type of stages are ones where you roam the surface above as quickly as possible so as not to run out of gas mask filters as you try and figure out your objective. Nearly every surface level had me wandering aimlessly for minutes at a time with no clear direction and invisible walls that stopped me from jumping a 2-foot-tall concrete barricade, for example, of which I had no reason to think that I shouldn't be going in that direction, all the while watching the timer run down on my air filtration, leaving me to choke to death. The final types are ones where you stand around and wait for the NPC you're quote-unquote escorting to do things that you could easily do yourself in order to advance the story. More on that in a minute. Each level has hidden Metro 2033 notes, which I think are supposed to be pages from Artyom's journal. I didn't quite follow the logic. They are the game's only collectible. Unless a game is specifically designed to do first-person platforming, say Mirror's Edge or Dying Light, then it generally ends up pretty bad. Metro 2033 is no exception. First off, some of the difficulty comes in trying to figure out where you can go and where you can jump. I mean, without a heads-up display or oftentimes even a clear destination, I kept trying jumps that looked like I could make, not looking for hidden areas, but merely just trying to figure out how to progress. Honestly, I think a lot of this just boils down to some poor level design, as I found it pretty humorous that I found secret areas because I ended up passing the correct direction to go, not being able to find it, and then I'd end up finding nooks and crannies with hidden bonuses or items. Sometimes the game's NPCs would tell you where to go and give you directions, but what's harder to understand than thickly Russian accented English? Try it with a gas mask on.
So you made it, Artyom. I had my doubts, to be honest.
And try it with a gas mask on and a radio echo.
Well done.
Come here, Ulman.
We
We just found some demons off. It's still going up.
Also, speaking of poor design, what's up with this rail shooter section? I mean, how are you supposed to tell where the shots are coming from? As if the darkness weren't enough, your view is completely obstructed. I don't know how many times the game puts you in situations where you're supposed to lose a fight and you inexplicably don't die, or you're rescued at the last minute by an NPC. Let's not forget about the insta-death sections. The random tap a button quickly. And sometimes you don't know whether you're supposed to and actually can kill a monster or if you're supposed to run away. Video games are also starting to make me really hate stealth sections. If you can't do it right and solid, don't do it. Don't put me in a stealth section where there's some random guy that can't be stealth killed. And I swear, some of these soldiers, you could kill a guy 3 feet from him while he's looking at you, but as long as there's not a light source nearby, he doesn't know you're there. But then you'd get discovered from way far away while you're in cover, and the enemy would just shoot you through the cover. Half the time, it didn't seem like cover worked at all. Finally got to a point where I came across these stealth sections, I'd just make a lot of noise and have them come at me single file, and I'd just pick them off. So as I mentioned a few seconds ago, there are a lot of situations where you're waiting for NPCs to do a job. I mean, I've hit switches like this before, guys. I've been pulling the levers this whole time. I'm not incapable of opening these doors myself, just in order to have a set-piece battle. The problem really comes in when you're supposed to do something and you don't know what. It took me 10 minutes of walking around and then finally looking it up on the internet to see that I had a lighter by pressing up on the control pad. And these spiderwebs were different than other spiderwebs, and I couldn't walk through them, while this creepy ghost whisperer guy just sat there staring and not offering any helpful advice. During several chapters, you would often be following these aforementioned PCs, but unlike your normal escort missions, these guys were extremely tough. Often where it felt like they were escorting you. You were a side character in their story. When stopping through the metro stations, you can modify your weapons with various vendors. The currency system of Metro 2033 is unique in the fact that you use military-grade bullets as money. Anytime in your travels, you can pop in your military bullets into your gun and do a lot more damage at the cost of, well, the bullets themselves. It's like shooting arrows in the original Legend of Zelda for a rupee each. But if you're cheap, you can find randomly modded guns with these modifications from dropped enemies. You can carry 3 guns at a time, and your choices are a pistol, a submachine gun, a shotgun, and eventually a full AK machine gun and a flamethrower type deal. The lack of a talk button is another pretty neat choice, actually, as standing next to someone will eventually grab their attention where they'll give you the information you need or tell you to butt out.
Move it, boy!
You also don't often see many children in video games, and there's a very unique section where you give a talkative little fellow a piggyback ride. It was a little inconsistent with the overall mood of the game, but definitely a different experience. So, come on, if an international best-selling author had a hand in this game, which he did, why are we getting things like looking into the eyes of fear, literally? Unless someone's name is Fear, or you're confronting a demon named Fear like in Dragon Age, you can't literally look Fear in the eyes. He's referring to a giant ape mutant that you're literally looking into at the eyes, not Fear. Okay, rant over. If these Metro residents really want to know how everything's going to end up, couldn't they just pick up a copy of the book's sequel? I mean, I did see a few lying around. So one of my final thoughts here is that it's weird that they chose to use a silent protagonist through the gameplay. He narrates every chapter opening in first person. The main menu has him sitting down at an antique typewriter like he's writing a story, yet in every gameplay situation, someone else is making the decision for him and he never speaks a word. If you're trying to use the silent protagonist as a vessel to immerse the player, doing this, you've really lost the effect. So I've argued with myself before in that maybe I just don't like the linear shooter genre, as at the end of the day, most end up with a very low score. I do try to be objective in all my evaluations, and there are a few exceptions to this, as there just needs to be a special something to make it stand out, or just really have solid mechanics or a fantastic story that's told while you play, not constantly interrupted by cutscenes. Metro 2033 just leaves me with a lot of failed expectations. There were a lot of very atmospheric moments that just kind of seemed to be wasted. I mean, I wanted to explore this world, not be shoved through it dragging my heels from set piece to set piece. But rated on my first person shooter scale, Metro 2033 ended up with a 38 out of 100, keeping in mind that 50 is an average game. Well, that's all for now. This is Jiro with Umber Games. Thanks for watching.